Today we'll be discussing the original Alien designs introduced in 5YL. If you're unfamiliar with 5YL, it's a continuation / crossover developed by the Inktank. Starting off with Manticore, I really like this. I'm forgetting the name of the character we see that is this species in the original series, Grandpa Max's ex-partner. Yeah, really strong design. I mean, I understand it's adapting a lot of what the original design just was, but the art style works great, the posing's great in this image. Proportionally, it's really nice. I just feel like this slightly more masculine version of the take of the more feminine design is just works well. It's a nice balanced design. Then we've got Power Plant. Yeah, I really like the idea of this hybrid design. I think the fact that it's that sort of, I don't want to say corrupted DNA, it's that sort of fixed DNA we see from the hybrid towards the end of Alien Force and Ben's Omnitrix. Spoilers for Alien Force, but I assume if you're watching this, you probably have a reasonable understanding of everything that happens in Ben 10. Proportionally, it's really strong. I love the wings. The ability to fly in this is fantastic. I don't remember if any of the hybrid can fly in series, but I feel like this version works really nicely. Bogey, to my understanding, this is a reference to the background character that looked like Billy from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. It works well. I don't love the hair, but proportionally it works. It is very clearly, I'm seeing his power is to make people laugh through snot spores. Oh, his spore snot, sorry. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking visuals, I'm not talking power set. It works well. It's horrifically ugly, but very intentionally, and it's quite effective. I don't love the hair. Amalgaman, awesome name. I love the idea of Ben having an Osmosian form, especially if you go with the Alien Force, Ultimate Alien idea of Osmosians being that Agrigor Kevin species as opposed to just a human mutant. Yeah, it works really strongly. Back to design, works very strongly. The colour palette's nice. I like how Agrigor adjacent it is. I think the hair works nicely, just proportionally works well. Putty, another transformation I always really wanted in this series. I really like the Lepidopterans. Pretty much the whole time I was watching Classic as a kid, I was hoping they would unlock this transformation, and then come Omniverse. Are you thinking, oh, will he, won't he? He won't, but in 5YL they've added Putty, and that's just fantastic. 1010, I'm just really strong start to this. I just think this is a transformation we should have had. For some reason, in my headcanon, 6-6 and 7-7 and all those were mutants of some species, or they were whatever they were, and then they've had all this alteration to them, but having this sort of be the standard form of that species works really nicely. I think 1010 is such a clever name. Fantastic job to the people at the Inktank. Now moving on to some original species. We've got Outburst. It works really nicely. It reminds me a lot of, maybe a little bit of the DC hero, I'm forgetting his name. Firestorm. Reminds me a little bit of that with the headpiece. I think that sort of cannon, the arm is really good. Yeah, proportionally works really well. Demon Sign. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, pardon me if I'm not. Yeah, it works well. A little tiefling, a little sort of goat, satyr creature. I like it. It's not my absolute favourite thing in the world, but it's strong. Brightspeed. This reminds me a lot of other speedsters we see, especially with colour palette. Posing's pretty strong. I like that he can manipulate neon energy and travel at the speed of light, but it's not my absolute favourite. Elimigator, awesome. Everything I've ever wanted. I think from the moment we saw the crocodile mutant in Classic, I would have loved this. Obviously that isn't the same as that mutant, although maybe in 5YL canon that mutant could have been part Crocero. I like that species name. Yeah, it works really well. I love how jagged it is. It feels, really strong. Fun guy, great. I'm assuming that's in relation to that sort of fauna species we see. Is it Flora? A Flora species that we see in Classic that unlocks Wildvine. I can see unlocking this guy. Very much a fun guy. Love the hat, love the posing, that sort of tips the hat. Sort of a cowboy feel to almost. Yeah, I really like it. Gunstinger. Oh, this is awesome. This is everything you'd want cerebral crustaceans to be, apart from probably better. Something that the 3 legs really works, I like that sort of top heaviness to it. Has a nice balance. The slim arms and the sort of big claw and that. I really like it. I feel like these designs I'm either really gushing or being not super thrilled by. Cleaver. It's becoming a trend that I think I just like the big strong ones. It's nice. I'm assuming this is the same species as the villain we see Ben 10,000 fight in Classic and then appears in Omniverse, but his name slips my mind. This is very Ben 10,000 looking actually now that I'm looking at the shirt. I quite like it. I don't love the spikes, but it's a nice solid Rhino design. Tentadrill. Not my absolute favourite thing. Very alien, very sort of, who is this kind of... It serves a similar purpose to Armadillo, but doesn't quite have the tankiness that I would personally want, but at the same time, lots of aliens have overlaps in their designs and abilities, obviously this being a sort of drill octopus. I don't know, just not my absolute favourite thing in the world. Forecaster, this is awesome. I really like that. The name works well, it sort of being a djinn works really nicely. Just controlling the weather. I mean, it's obvious from looking at the design what its powers are, and I think that's such a good staple of a good design. DKR. That's very Ben 10 humour, I like that. A shadow creature, very frightening. I don't love the posing on this. I think maybe if the head was more on that sort of 3/4 angle, I would have enjoyed that more. I think it just looks a little bit simplistic in the hair design, but in a different pose, I think I'd love this. I like the head sort of separate from the body. It feels dark, it feels upsetting. The color palette between those purples and reds, really, those sort of muted purples and reds look really nice. For some reason, spitters in this list I'm looking at now, yeah, the 5-oil spitter looks great. Just a slight improvement over the original spitter design. Portala, I really like Portala. I think he's so much fun to look at. I think he would just fit in an Omniverse. I say fit in an Omniverse, I know some people don't love all the Omniverse transformations. Would fit in well with the Omniverse general roster. I really like this. I like their powers. I know I'm not talking about the powers, but Portala, the name, portals, it works well. Proportionally great, color-wise great. I love the little antenna. Oh, so strong. Anti-Gravitesla. Yeah, that's a tricky name. Pardon me, I'm probably getting a few of these names wrong. Great, it reminds me a lot of that Overwatch hero. I can't remember his name. I think he's more of a villain. Like a few of the other ones, visually he looks like his powers suit. Obviously he's sort of got that Nikola Tesla inspired head. I think the way the clothing incorporates those sort of hover devices looks really nice. Squid Stricter. Yeah, I mean, this is a cheeky little design from I think it's the Ben 10 play, I want to say, the Ben 10 live stage performance, if you want to call it that. No huge notable difference to the design, but the posing's nice, like a little cheeky guy. Beethoven, yeah, awesome. The posing is the strongest part for this one. Clever name, suits the personality of the transformation well, hypnotizes people through music. I think that's a lot of fun. Yeah, just really nice. Nice. I'd actually probably prefer this over the Vladat transformation. Starfisher. Looks good. I think functionally serves a similar idea to Chromastone. I'm not sure. I love the face. I think the expression of this is great. The colouring works well, but I don't know about the clothes mixing with the colours. I'm just not too sure about that. Sculpiblo, I love a good insect-inspired alien transformation. I think there's something so alien about insects. Yeah, I mean, proportionally works nicely. I think maybe if the torso was a little bit bulkier, I think there's something about that I would have liked. It's almost there, but it's not quite for me. Actually, I do really like how the eyes come out of the head. That's really nice. Dualignite, very reminiscent of Goop, but the fact that it's an explosive Goop with a name, it just works really nicely. I think, yeah, it's a pretty simple design, but it works effectively. Wrecker, I like this quite a lot. It reminds me a little bit of Cannonbolt. I love the storing of the crystals in the body. It just feels so seamless. That posing so strong. I love the mouth, the eyes, even the hands. There isn't a thing about this design I don't like. Electra Bee, not my favourite thing in the world. I don't love the hair around its head. I think there's elements I do like. I shouldn't be so negative about this one. What are they? Not wings. The sort of antennae look really, the sort of headpieces look really nice, but other than that, it's not my absolute favourite. Cortoise, really strong. I love the magma breaking apart. It reminds me a lot of the Pokemon Golem. That's a very good thing. It's one of my favourites. Being face on probably doesn't help it hugely, but I think the posing's strong, the look's strong, the colour works. There's such a sort of radiance of heat coming from it. I really like that. Wispunch. Really good names. I'm really liking a lot of these names. Yeah, I mean, it works nicely. A fire-themed ghost alien. It feels a little bit Pokemon inspired to me, but it works so nicely. Slingshot. Not my favourite thing in the world. I'm not sure about the Omnitrix symbol being on its right foot. I think the way the arms divide up is interesting, and I feel there's a lot of momentum you're getting from that right arm coming to, like, swinging back only to come towards you, but it's just not my favourite. Ultraviolet, I really like this. Feels very unique. I really like the eyes. The posing's really strong. Really nice, strong design. I think the purple works so well with the greens. I think his build's really good. I don't love it doesn't have feet or hands, but that kind of lends itself to the design nicely. Mantibolt, I think this is probably my favourite so far. I think this is voiced by Kellen Goff, who I'm a huge fan of. I think, yeah, electricity aliens are almost always a positive thing. Positive? That's terrible. It's got a really nice balance to its head, to its tail. I would probably tweak the body slightly. I'm not sure what I'd do. I don't know if I'd maybe put it on all fours, or if there's so much I like about this design, but it feels like there's something, I don't know if it's missing or something that needs a slight tweak, but just have the slightest tweak. Slobberidge. Yuck. Effectively yuck. This feels a lot like, oh my god, what is the terrifying gross ogre from Omniverse called? I'm forgetting the transformation name. That's so terrible. It's effectively gross. It works well. The posing's really strong. A lot of the posing's fantastic in these. Mixmaster. I really like this. It feels like a little baby fast track. I love how the eyes look. That sort of full wrapping around. I think the nostrils work really well. Proportionally, I love the big hands. I think just big hands, smaller wrists and arms is something I really like in an alien. Bulwark, awesome. I love that it feels heavy, it feels powerful, those sort of big stone arms. Oh, Really nice. You can just feel it charging, if that makes sense. I really like this, especially obviously the posing lends well to that charging effect. To autoquote, I feel like I'm mispronouncing a lot of these. This is really strong. For some reason, it reminds me of the Marionette from Five Nights at Freddy's, but really upsetting to look at. It reminds me a bit of Eye Guy. The colours work really nice. That blue and white lend itself to the sort of eeriness to it. Really nice. Isodope, a similar effect to the previous design, but I don't like looking at it as much, I'd say. Enagai, I was going to say I don't like it as much. The more I look at it, the more I like it. I think that sort of, it feels very, I want to say Egyptian with the sort of sun, with the crescent moon underneath it as the shape of the head. I feel like this thing being able to shoot energy just suits it so perfectly. I mean, obviously it's designed around that, but it just works nicely. Boulder Crash, very Mega Man inspired to me. I like the way that sort of real rocky texture sort of sits on the blue. Not as much green as a lot of Ben 10 transformations are, but I quite like it. Backwash, I love this. This is awesome. It feels like a Neopet I never had. I think there's something about the cheeks that looks really good to me. Obviously it's got those pods all over its body, but I think I really like this. Look at his little face. He's just a little guy. Punchline's awesome. I think it has such a Ditto energy to it. I think there's something, he feels so elastic, so flexible. I think the posing's really nice. He's sort of standing, it feels like he's sort of pressing his torso up towards the sky with the way his legs are, and then, yeah, he feels very fluid. Astronaut, clever name. I think the suit's really cool. There's something that feels like it's missing from this design. I'm not sure if it's arms. I think it probably is arms, but it's not my favorite thing. Futali Yeti, a more dog-looking design. I like this quite a lot. I think we need more, not the opposite of bipedal, four-legged transformations. I really like that. He feels comfortable, he feels kind of friendly, but also kind of capable. I really like the color palette for this one. I think there's something with those sort of yellowy bone structures and that sort of the whitey grey of the rest of his fur looks really nice, especially the black in the eyes I really like. Wormwalk, that's definitely a Men in Black alien, isn't it? Those annoying little guys from Men in Black. Charming, but annoying. It works nicely. I think if you were to put Ben 10 clothes on one of those, this is how it would look. Very effective, great posing. Pack-a-Dump. I think that's Fred Fredberger from Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I'm probably showing my age and my love for that show. I think this is awesome. I think the sort of black around the lips works really well. The unitard is unpleasant, but suits the character quite well. I love the little horns, the expression on the face, everything about that just works nicely. Vertebrate, that's terrifying. I love that. I love any alien that can feel like it could be from the Anor system or could be frightening to the other aliens in general. Prick, one of Argent's species, that's great. It feels, I mean, the name is so good, right? Obviously, great posing. The hair looks awesome. The tail feels wild. The pants really work. I like the sort of larger cuffs on it. That looks really good. Overkill, the Venom equivalent for 5L. I think this is awesome. If you haven't seen the Inktanks video explaining Overkill, I highly recommend it. Frightening, lends itself to being sort of a few steps away from Venom and working really nicely, similar to Scourge. Truffle, I really like that one. I think being a Tuffle sort of equivalent is interesting. It's very soft looking, it's a little bit of a baby Groot meets a sort of mushroom character. I love the way it's walking, the posing, it feels very harmless, much like the Tuffles from Dragon Ball. Lank, very Invader Sim. I've never seen Invader Sim. I absolutely should have, but I don't think it ever aired on television in Australia. I mean, it looks awesome. I love, obviously, the name Lank, Lanky, lends itself well, feels sort of Grim Reaper, feels sort of Scarecrow aesthetic. I think there's something about it just works really nicely. When I say something about it, proportions work amazing, the colours really pop. I love the expression on the face. Dental Dam, I mean, this works well. It's a beaver rat guy. I think the teeth spikes are upsetting, but it works really well. I love the tail. I think the clothing for this one's really strong. The sort of almost glowing mohawk suits it really well. I don't love this design, but it works so well. Gutbuster, this is awesome. This is one of those aliens that was I think it was in Classic Series. I really like this. Proportionately perfect. The Inktank's just sort of taken what works at the design and just put it in 5L. I think the posing here is really strong. That sort of cheering and, I just love the chest mouth. Bloodline, I don't think I've seen this one before. I really like that. The species introduced in Secret of the Omnitrix works well. I like that it doesn't have the robotic parts. It just leans into what the species is. The reds work really well. The sort of desaturated oranges. The eyes are great. The spikes are great proportionally. It just sits nicely. Telewhack. I mean, this is a really good example of the name suggesting what it is. The crystals out of the sort of rock look so good. The way it's standing works pretty well. I wouldn't have minded a different pose for this. I'm not sure what I would have gone with personally, but it works nicely, but I think something more extravagant could have probably suited the telekinesis aspect better. Chemikill, I think this alien is well designed. It's very unsettling in a very good way. I think the oranges feel, not the oranges, the yellows feel sort of threatening. It has a very skeletal design. The blacks make the yellows really pop. Illborn, disgusting. Once again, there's a lot of gross aliens in this, but when I say gross, effectively gross. This is upsetting to look at. It looks like it's in pain. I do really like the tail though, and the color palette works really well. I feel like that would be such a pain to draw each time. Low crawl, a lot of fun. There's something in the expression that really ties this together. I think the Omnitrix placement is fun as well, being on the very top. I wouldn't have minded if it was sort of planted between the eyes slightly higher up, maybe just above the forehead. Acid Grime, I love the expression on this. More than anything else, this is one of the best designs purely for the expression on the face. I think the way it's melting works really nicely. Yeah, the posing's fine, the clothes are fine, but something about that facial expression just really ties it together for me. Disc Jockey, I think this is awesome. I think this is a really interesting, unique idea. I love the way it's sort of coming apart. I love the tank that it sits in, really nice. Taikon Dude, I mean, everyone knows this species. I don't love the hair so much. I think maybe the ponytail was a link to the fact that this species have tails when they're younger, and maybe that's sort of the equivalent here. The posing's great. It feels fun, it feels light on its feet, but it feels reasonably powerful still with sort of those thicker arms and bigger upper body. Great. Koisin, I really like this. This feels, again, upsetting. It's very like a dragon, koi fish, crab creature. It feels like a sort of algae coming off its body, the way those sort of limbs are. It feels very threatening. Buckwild, really good rabbit alien design. I think the tail is probably the strongest part of this design. If not, I love the way the sort of knees bend backwards and those really powerful legs. I like that a lot. I wouldn't have minded if the ears maybe came out less. Slam Speed, great concept, great design. It feels like it would be in Classic Series. It feels like a Ben 10,000 alien to me. I think the sort of tank on its face is great. The build is good. It feels strong. It feels like it would charge you. Monkey, great. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I think anything Saiyan related works really well in Ben 10 somehow. I think the Ink Tank did a great job with their lore video explaining how the Saiyans and all that work in Ben 10. I mean, great design. The hair is everything a Dragon Ball Z fan wants. The tail works nicely. Proportionally, it's good. Leaning into that sort of pose is really nice. Yeah, just probably one of my favorites. Salamancer, I mean, big dragon from Alien Force, awesome. I think the sort of chest piece with the Omnitrix works nicely. I feel like this feels more dragon-like than the original dragon. There's something, maybe it's the more detail on it, the wings maybe. I really like it. Crush, I am just gushing over this last page. I love asymmetric characters, especially one with sort of a bigger arm or something. This is an absolute trope I adore. Yeah, I mean, it just works nicely. It's largely that. The long hair really lends itself to that as well. Noticing a lot more yellows in 5-O's original designs. Sucker Punch, being Vilgax's species is fantastic. I think myself, like many others, always wanted Ben to have a Vilgax sort of transformation. Awesome. Feels like Ben. It looks a lot less like the sort of amplified Vilgax we see in Classic and more like the system we see from Secrets of the Omnitrix. Lends itself really well. Feels like Ben, doesn't feel so much like Vilgax. I know the reboot did a Vilgax design, but I think this just works really nicely. Now I know this isn't all the designs from 5-OAL and I'll get into more later on, but just for this video I'm going to keep it there. Thanks for watching.